I've been sober for 5.5 years now, and today I'm going to talk to you about my journey with alcohol and how it has led me to a clean living lifestyle. Hi, I'm Kath. I have struggled with alcohol a lot in my life, and I'm going to tell you a bit more about that now. I first got drunk when I was 12, and I was on holiday and we were sat outside watching entertainment. I think we were in Spain, and I was finishing off people's drinks on the table, just sneaking the rest of the drinks. And I remember getting drunk for the first time in my life and feeling like this is what it feels like to feel normal. So for those of you who don't know, I was diagnosed with ADHD last year. So obviously back then I had undiagnosed ADHD, potentially undiagnosed autism as well. I am awaiting assessment for autism, but I just have felt awkward for my whole life, and especially in social situations. When I got drunk, I just felt like I was able to speak to people, and it just felt, wow, this is what it feels like to be normal. I loved that feeling. And then when we came back home, I didn't drink for a couple of years. Obviously, like, I was a child, I was young, and then as I became a teenager, I got into like drinking on the streets with my friends, and we would sneak alcohol, or we would get someone to buy it for us. Or there was a point where I got a fake ID. I think I might have been about 15 at the time, and I got away with it, and it was different back then. And I feel like I don't think that would happen as much nowadays, because everything's so much stricter now. But I got away with buying alcohol myself, even at such a young age. So I had this cycle of me and my friends, and we would go out early on a weekend. We would go out really early, get drunk really early, sober up, and make sure we were sober in time for when we had to come in later on. And that was kind of every Friday and Saturday night, every week for however long. I started when I became 18. Obviously, I was able to easily buy alcohol myself. I didn't have to stress about it, didn't have to use a fake ID. And I started, I would go out quite often. I'd go out like probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, like socially, and I could get away with it because I was 18. But I was struggling a lot inside, and I had, at the time, I didn't realise that I had undiagnosed depression, obviously undiagnosed ADHD, and I'd been through a lot of childhood trauma as well. And I was used to suppressing my feelings for everything. I was keeping my anger inside. I was keeping everything inside. I was just pushing it down. I got to a point when I was 18, something happened in my life, something that really, really affected me, really upset me, and I turned to alcohol. I obviously already drank at this point, but I turned to alcohol in a dangerous way. I started drinking in the mornings. I was drinking in my room at home. I would get up in the morning, get a shower, get ready, go to the shop, buy a bottle of wine or 2 bottles of wine, and go home and drink it. Or I would go to the pub on my own, or I'd go to the pub with other people if they were available to do that. At that time, I was holding down 3 jobs. I had 3 jobs working in 3 different pubs, which made it easier for me to drink. So for example, depending on the shift I was on, I would drink on my break at work. I'd start drinking. I was also at college at the time doing beauty therapy, and so I was busy a lot of the time, but every other minute I was drunk. And I was maintaining that for a while. I was still going to college, I was still going to work, I was holding it down. I didn't see it as abnormal drinking, even though now looking back it was, because it's not normal to wake up and need to drink alcohol, which I was doing. I was drunk in the like morning, afternoon, evening, whatever. I was drunk because I needed to not feel my feelings, because they hurt too much. My feelings were so painful for me, my emotions, that I needed to have a break from feeling them. And that's why I turned to alcohol. Obviously, when the alcohol wore off, the feelings came back with a vengeance, and then I also had the guilt of how much I drank, and the cycle just repeated itself on and on. I got to the point where I was drinking like this for, I don't know how long, but it was for at least for months and months. And then I started to not hold everything down. I started phoning in sick at work. I stopped going to college. At first I would just miss the odd day, but then it got to the point where I was just missing every week of college, and I was so close to qualifying. I'd done my level 2 in beauty therapy. I was on my level 3 and I'd nearly finished it. And I was so unhappy at home, and I was just struggling a lot. I remember one day my college tutor rang me, and I think some of my friends at college had said that I was struggling and what had been going on and things like that. So she'd rang me, and she basically gave me some tough love that I needed at the time. And she said, you know, I know you're struggling, I know you're going through a hard time, but are you really going to throw everything away when you've worked so hard for it? Like, I was probably about 1 or 2 months away from finishing my whole course and then being able to walk into a job that I really enjoyed, or even becoming self-employed as a beautician. And she said that to me, and I remember on the phone I thought, I don't really care. I didn't say that to her. I thanked her for calling me and everything, but at the time I didn't care. I was in so much emotional pain that I just thought, what's the point? I don't care. And then as the days went on after that phone call, I started thinking more and more about what she said, and I thought, I know that I want to have money of my own. I want to have a decent amount of money so I'm able to, get a house of my own and be able to move out and to do these things that I need to do to heal myself. And if I give up on my qualification and if I waste all my hard work, that's just going to slow me down. So what I did was, instead of drinking every day of the week in the morning and everything, I pushed all my drinking to like the weekend, or to more like socially acceptable days. Like, I would then drink Thursday, Friday, Saturday instead of Monday to Sunday. And I did it. I went to pubs, I went to clubs, things like that. I went out with people, and it was more socially acceptable, and it seemed more normal to everyone else. To me as well, it seemed more normal. I was still binge drinking multiple times a week, but because I wasn't drinking in the morning, it seemed more socially acceptable. I carried on like that so I was 18 at the time. I carried on like that probably until into my early 20s, when I got pregnant with my first daughter, my oldest daughter. And obviously I stopped drinking straight away. That kind of gave me a motivation to just stop drinking. So I didn't drink at all while I was pregnant. And when my daughter was a little bit older and we started, me and my husband started going on, we weren't married at the time, but like going out and things like that. And when my daughter was being looked after by a family member and like staying over, and we would go on a night out, I would get drunk. Sometimes I wouldn't even drink much. It might only be like 1 or 2 glasses of wine, but I would feel horrendous the next day. And I would be at the point where I was in bed all day with such a bad hangover that if I moved, I would be sick. I'm not talking about a hangover where you hear some people, they can go shopping with a hangover or they go out the next day. I literally couldn't function at all. It was like my body had been so bombarded with alcohol that it was just like even the smallest amount of alcohol really did a lot of damage. So I got to the point where I carried on. Like, then I didn't drink every week. I just drank occasionally, like social situations, like if we went to a wedding or a rare night out or things like that. But then the same thing happened the day after. I was in bed all day feeling horrendous. My mental health would suffer for about 5 days after drinking as well, to the point where my mental health was on the floor after drinking. I would feel guilty for staying in bed, because at this point, like years later, I had my youngest daughter, and even if I had been on a night out with my friends and they'd been, at home with my husband, and And the next day I'd be in bed all day feeling so ill that we couldn't go anywhere, and I felt so guilty about that. I felt guilty that I was doing this to myself, but also because of that I was also affecting their lives, because we couldn't go out and have fun like we should be able to on a weekend. And that was a big part of it. And as the years went on, when I got to the age of 30, so like 11 years ago now, I was diagnosed with depression. And after a lifetime of childhood trauma, suppressing my feelings, and obviously undiagnosed ADHD and obviously addiction and things like that, I was diagnosed with depression. And then I started changing my life. I started cleaning up my life. I started eating better, changed the people I surrounded myself with. I started looking for the good in everything, practicing gratitude. Even then, I still carried on drinking. Again, only socially and only every now and then, but it would have the same effect each time. And then one day, I had this little bit of a wake-up call, and I thought, I'm working so hard to improve my mental health, and every time I drink, my mental health is in a really bad place, like a really, really bad place. And it's like, what's the point in me doing all this work if I'm then going to ruin it by drinking and having those like up to 5 days of my mental health really suffering, and my physical health, of course. So I started thinking, right, okay, I think I'm gonna quit drinking. It was 2019 and we went on holiday. Me and my husband and my 2 daughters, we went to Gran Canaria on holiday, and I thought, I'm not going to drink. So I think we'd gone for like 10 days. We'd gone there for 10 days, and I went 6 days without drinking. And then on the 6th night, we went in an Irish bar, and I'm of Irish heritage, and I grew up with Irish music, and I loved it. I love it. And like, we were in this bar and I felt like I couldn't relax. I just wanted to enjoy it and enjoy the music, and I was just thinking about alcohol, and I thought, I need to get a glass of wine. So I went and got a glass of wine, and I sat down at the table, and it was in my hand, and I instantly relaxed, and I hadn't even drank any of it. I just was sat there with this glass of wine, and I felt like chilled, and I thought, that's not normal. And it made me realise how psychological it was as well, because I wasn't drunk. I hadn't had even a sip of this wine, and I was still feeling relaxed. It was just having it in my hand made me feel safe almost, or it made me feel like, I felt like people before, without the alcohol, I felt like people could see me, like see right through me. And with the alcohol, I know it's a weird thing to say, but it felt like I almost like blended in. So I sat there, I ended up drinking the wine. I only had that one glass. I was able to relax, I enjoyed myself. But the next day, I felt rough. I was like, I had a bad headache. I was feeling really dehydrated, and I felt so guilty. And I felt guilty on myself, on my body, and like, I felt like I betrayed myself. So again, for the last few days of the holiday, I didn't drink any alcohol. So this was I think this was like in June of 2019. So was it 2019? Yeah, June of 2019. So in November of 2019, we were invited to a wedding, like the evening of a wedding, and it wasn't that far away, and I thought, I'm just going to drive. It's just easier of a drive. So I was going to drive, and then at the last minute I changed my mind. I thought, no, I'm not going to drive. So we ended up getting a taxi, and I at this point had changed. I got a glass of vodka, like vodka and soda. I got with like a lime in it, and I sat there with this drink, and I drank it through the night. I didn't feel drunk, because vodka never really made me feel drunk. It was just wine that really, like you know, they say wine is the devil and all that, but wine made me drunk. And I just want to point out, I was never like a nasty drunk, and I wasn't the kind of drunk, I didn't cause chaos or anything. When I was drunk, I felt happier, I felt more confident, I felt like I could speak to people, I probably talked too much and that's it. I wasn't like a nasty drunk or anything, but when I drank vodka did not, it took me a lot of vodka to even feel the slightest bit even tipsy. So on this night I had a glass of vodka, like a shot of vodka, and I sat there and I drank it through the night. It didn't feel any different, and I've sat there thinking, why did I choose not to drive? I've just let this little tiny bit of clear liquid control my whole night, and like we've had to pay extra for taxis, and it didn't make me enjoy myself anymore. It just controlled me, and that was the night I stopped drinking. I have not drank since then, so that's like 5.5 years ago now. And I'll be honest, there's been times where especially as a neurodivergent person, there's been times when I have really thought, oh, I wish I could drink in this situation. Like I feel awkward a lot of the time inside, and I used to use alcohol to help me relax. And when I'm in social situations, I don't really, to be honest, I don't really go out that much now. Occasionally I'll go out and stuff, and I can still have fun. If I'm in a place where like there's good music and there's a dance floor, I will dance and stuff. But socially I feel quite awkward. So there are times when I really miss drinking alcohol, but then the fact that I know how I would feel after drinking the alcohol, I know how I would feel the day after and the days after, like that is enough to motivate me to not drink. And what that has led to is me being more aware of my body and more conscious about what I put in it and the toxins and how many. Obviously alcohol is a toxin to everyone, and yeah, some people can drink it much more sensibly than others. I was not a sensible drinker, but it made me aware of toxins in general, and the fact that alcohol made me feel so bad because not only I abused it, but it's a toxin. It goes straight to your liver. Your liver has to try and process it, and if your liver's overburdened from all kinds of things like chemicals and air fresheners and processed foods and alcohol and like pharmaceutical drugs and even some supplements and stuff, if it's being bombarded from all directions, then it's gonna struggle. And I didn't want to do that to my body anymore. I didn't want to do that in the first place, but it was kind of like I felt like I needed to. But it just made me realize so much about life and how much we put toxins into our body, and it made me so aware of living a cleaner lifestyle. So now, 5.5 years on, I would like to say I'll never drink again. But if you're a person who has had an addiction to alcohol or drugs or anything, you will probably know that the best way to go about that is not to put that pressure on yourself, and just to say, you know, like, I'll probably never drink again. But if you take that pressure off yourself, you're more likely to stick to it. If I had said to myself from day one, I'm never drinking again, probably the ADHD PDA part of me would be like, well, now I want to drink because you've told me that I can't do it. And I know that sounds really immature, but that is just sometimes how not just my brain works, but other people's brain works. If you put that pressure on yourself, like if you tell yourself you can never have your favourite food ever again, then you're going to crave that even more. Same applies to alcohol, same applies to drugs and things like that. But for me, it's the motivation for me is the fact that I'm now in a much better place over the years, like I've mentioned in other videos, over the last 11 years, I've worked hard on myself, on my mindset, on my health, on my lifestyle. And as a result of that, I love myself now when I never used to. I used to hate myself. So when I say love myself, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that we should all love ourselves and care about ourselves, as in, if we're not going to do it, who else is going to do it for us? We should be caring what we put into our body. It is our home, and I think so much differently now. So when it comes to alcohol, yeah, there are still times now when I miss being drunk and I miss the confidence it gives me, but I much prefer to have those, to be able to wake up the next day and feel fresh and get things done and do things that I want to do. I much prefer to go for like a walk in nature, or go for a hike, or just do something like that, or go somewhere with my family, than staying in bed all day, feeling rough, regretting my decisions. And I think that's what has been a really important factor in leading me to this clean living lifestyle. So I just want to say, if you're watching this and you are struggling with any kind of like substance misuse, alcohol, drugs, or whatever it may be, or if you love someone or care about someone who is, then please know you're not alone and they're not alone, and there are people that want to help, or you can help them, or you can help yourselves. There are different ways. If you have anything, like any questions you want to ask me in the comments, then please do. I'll be happy to answer whatever I feel like I'm able to answer. But you're not alone, and please understand this as well. Happy people do not become addicted. So usually, I just want to point this out, I don't believe that addiction is a disease. Yes, certain people have certain genes that can make them more prone to addiction. For example, I don't know if you know this, but if you're neurodivergent, you are more prone to addiction. That can be a result of feeling unheard for most of your life, not understanding if you've gone a long time without being diagnosed, not like being able to, like, thinking that why do I struggle with this and other people find it easy. It can affect your mental health massively. Feeling like you don't fit in does affect your mental health, and that can make you more likely to turn to alcohol and drugs and other addictions. So yes, there are certain genes that can make you more prone to addiction, but trauma is usually what pulls the trigger on addiction. So have a look, maybe consider seeing a counsellor, or if you feel like you need to, is there something in your life that you've not dealt with? Is there multiple things in your life you've not dealt with? By dealing with those, you are more likely to overcome your addiction, and you're more likely to feel like not need to rely on alcohol or drugs or whatever it may be. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you watching this video. If you found value in it, please like and subscribe. And like I say, if you've got any questions regarding addiction or supporting someone with addiction, then please comment below. Thank you. Bye.